Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Monday, the 21st day of April, 2025. We have three very important stories to bring to you. Our top story, which many of you may have already heard, comes from the Vatican. This morning, it was announced at the Vatican that Pope Francis has indeed died. We will talk about that in a few minutes. Two other stories out of Israel have huge consequences depending how they turn out with respect to last day's Bible prophecy. First, from the Jerusalem Post. It says U.S. Iran set third round of nuclear talks. What's next? And they're really fearful of what's next because supposedly these next talks are going to talk about the technical details of any agreement, which Israel is fearful an agreement will be signed. On the other hand, there's another story coming out of Israel from the periodical Israel HaYom. From their website, a source close to the White House says the U.S.-Iran talks are expected to collapse. Well, who's telling the truth? Well, we don't know. We'll talk about both of these possibilities here because they're, again, huge implications. Now, today we're going to do a two-part series. We're going to begin a two-part series today about the question of the red heifer. Is the existence of a pure red heifer a sign of the soon coming of Christ? A lot of people say it is. We'll look at that question. Then tomorrow we'll answer the question, what exactly does the Bible have to say about the subject of the red heifer? So we hope you can tune into those programs. All right, let's get the headlines. Vatican announces Pope Francis has died. This is from Breitbart. Headline number one. Early this morning, it was announced in Rome that Pope Francis had died. He's 88 years of age. He was the first Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic faithful. He led the church for 12 years after being elevated in March of 2013 with the historic resignation of his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI. He recently left Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where he'd been there since February 14th after having difficulty breathing. He had a bout of double pneumonia. He was been in poor health recently, so the fact of his death is certainly not surprising. Was announced with this announcement from Cardinal Kevin Farrell this morning on Vatican TV. Dear brothers and sisters, it is with profound sadness I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. Francis worked till the very last when he was able to make a surprise appearance for Easter Sunday blessings at Vatican St. Peter's Square. And, that was very surprising. And he also met Vice President J.D. Vance. And again, today it was announced that he had died. The late Pope, who was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio on December 17, 1936, in Buenos Aires, made his mark in a number of ways. He was the first Jesuit Pope, the first Pope from the Americas, the first Pope from the Southern Hemisphere, and the first non-European pontiff since Pope Gregory III, more than 1,000 years earlier. All right, his death triggers the start of the solemn but considered process to now elect a replacement. He begins with an official period of mourning, the papal funeral in coming days. It ends with a plume of white smoke to announce his successor has been chosen after eligible cardinals vote for a papal successor in the Sistine Chapel. Pope Francis will be buried in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore in Rome's Esquilio neighborhood. Now, over the years, we have talked about the various issues we've had with Francis. There's no need to rehash them now. All eyes are going to be on the Vatican to see who his replacement will be. And this, of course, is an ongoing story. We'll keep you posted with the latest details. All right, two stories coming out of Israel, and they couldn't be more different. We want to talk about the possibility of each of them coming to pass and what it means for us. Because what we do here on Breaking News, if you're new to us, all we do is stories with respect to last days Bible prophecy, events that fit what the Bible says our world's going to be like at the time of the end, and how to understand events with respect to last days Bible prophecy. Well, this headline from the Jerusalem Post says U.S. Iran set third round of nuclear talks. What's next? Technical experts on each side are already meeting up to discuss specific, concrete solutions in terms for complex problems. As the story goes on, anyone who has been paying attention over the last few weeks will likely not be surprised that the Trump administration seems to be moving towards a new Iran nuclear deal. And here's the key: that will not fulfill Israel's expectations. The Jerusalem Post has received strong signals from top Israeli officials in this direction, and public statements by American officials have essentially confirmed this trend. In quick succession, Washington and Tehran held a first round of nuclear talks on April 12th, a second round this past Saturday, and now have scheduled a third round for April 26th. The first round was designed to set a baseline of goodwill and conceptual framework of where the sides could agree. The second round delved into greater detail about the various broad issues, both areas where the sides agreed and disagreed. However, the third round shows how serious the talks are. Now, the technical experts on each side are meeting up to discuss specific concrete solutions and terms for complex problems. All of this is against the background of U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to visit Saudi Arabia in a matter of weeks, which could signal some additional seismic shifts in the region. How bad is the situation from the perspective of top Israeli officials? Well, it's real bad. It seems a foregone conclusion that Iran will not need to destroy their uranium enriching centrifuge fleet. Mossad Director David Barnea and Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, Israel's best current tag team on the issue, seem not to have succeeded in convincing U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff otherwise. Remember, we talked about that before the talks on Saturday in Rome. They met him in Paris on Friday and tried to talk him out of certain things. Seemingly, they wasn't very convincing. It would also seem obvious that the Islamic Republic will need to dilute all of its 60% enriched uranium back down to a much lower level to push its countdown time away from a nuclear weapon. Well, we'll see about that. The question is, will Tehran have to destroy some of its centrifuges and ship out some of its uranium? Will it need to stop running its advanced centrifuges that could enrich enough uranium from scratch for a new nuclear weapon in something like a month or two? Will it need to shut down its underground facilities, which are harder to strike from the air? All of that is preliminary to the essential question of ballistic missiles. One of the most glaring holes in the 2015 nuclear deal was that it pretended it pretended ballistic missiles were not part of the picture because they're primarily being used as conventional weapons. However, they're also the delivery vehicle, the delivery system for nuclear weapons. That we've been talking about that since 2015. The U.S. seemed to miss that. It was, of course, Barack Obama and John Kerry, former Secretary of State who once served in Vietnam. All right, so any nuclear deal in 2025 that does not address ballistic missiles, given that Tehran has now mastered almost every other nuclear weapon skill besides the delivery process, is being grossly negligent at an even higher level than in 2015, when Iran was not close to delivering a nuclear weapon anyway. How can Trump carve a new path? This would also be a place where Trump could distinguish himself from Obama's 2015 deal by saying he got a whole new issue included in the agreement. Now, for the Iranian side, if their program only has some forward looking limits, is under suspicion, and doesn't require the destruction of its centrifuges, they can still claim that they did not really give Trump any new concessions. And this is probably how they're going to end up, spinning the deal if it does come to pass. Of course, the preference of top Israeli officials at this point is a straight up aerial attack on Iran's mostly defenseless nuclear sites, following the Israeli Air Force's dismantling of most of Iran's quality air defenses on October 26th. But if Trump is making a deal anyway, Israel could position itself to support the agreement or not attack it if it includes certain items, such as limiting and controlling advanced centrifuges and ballistic missiles. If there is a meeting of technical experts this coming Saturday, hopefully it will be about working through some of the issues, take into account the Israeli perspective, and not merely returning to the 2015 nuclear limits that will be unable to restrain a more mature nuclear Iran. Now, that's the article from the Jerusalem Post. And we always love reading what our commentator friend Larry Goldstein has to say. And he just said it perfectly well. He always seems to just hit the nail on the head. Here's what he said. If that is indeed the deal, then complete failure from Israel's point of view. It's complete failure. That's the deal. We could wait and see what happens, but Netanyahu should tell Trump now, if he has not already done so, that this is not a deal Israel can accept. It leaves a sword at our throat. Explain to him that if the Iranian program is not dismantled, Israel will have to attack with everything we have, no weapons barred. This is a mortal threat to us, and no country, not even the U.S., can tell us to accept it. That's from commentator Larry Goldstein. He always comes up with some really precise and very sage advice. Exactly right from Israel's point of view. They've got a sword at their throat. If they leave it as is in any way, shape, or form, there's the possibility of a nuclear attack from Iran, which again, they've been telling the world about. They're planning on this for the last 20 years. So this is not something new. Why people miss that is, again, beyond me. Now, that's one story. However, there's another story that has an entirely different take on the matter. And I read this last night. It was quite a head scratcher here. A source close to the White House says U.S.-Iran talks expected to collapse. This is from the website Israel HaYom. A non-governmental Israeli source spoke with a senior American official who said Israel need not be concerned about the progress in talks with Iran. According to the official, once the Americans present their full list of demands, negotiations are likely to collapse. An Israeli non-government source recently spoke with a senior American official who said, again, Israel need not fear that with the talks between Steve Witkoff and the Iranian representatives over the nuclear program. Now, what's going on? Okay. According to the American official, as quoted by the Israeli source, the White House maintains that President Donald Trump remains fully aware of the severe threat posed by Iran. The official emphasized that Trump is conducting negotiations his way and knows exactly what he is doing. Although recent rounds of talks between the U.S. and Iran have reportedly showed progress, the American official assessed that the talks are likely to collapse in a few weeks when the full scope of U.S. demands is presented. The Israeli source said the Americans have not abandoned the Trump administration's original demands, that is, dismantling Iran's nuclear infrastructure following the Libyan model, halting the development of ballistic missiles, and ceasing the activities of Iranian proxy terrorist organizations around the Middle East. We need to let Trump manage the situation as he sees fit. He has a unique method, but he knows what he's doing, said the Israeli source, who, while not a government official, maintains close ties with senior figures in the Trump administration. Meanwhile, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is expected to participate remotely today, Monday, in a conference hosted by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, a prominent Washington-based think tank. His appearance comes amidst advancing nuclear talks with the U.S. All right, now, we don't know if this story is true or not, this second one. We hope it's correct. We simply don't know whether the talks will collapse. Only time will tell. We hope and pray they will, but we will just have to wait and see. So we'll keep you posted on all this. So, like we said, huge stories today. The death of Pope Francis, the story in Israel about the worry of an agreement coming out, and this other story coming from Israel saying, "Not, don't worry, Trump's going to, make these demands that Iran's going to have to reject, and the talks will collapse." What's going to happen? Well, as always, we'll have to wait and see. Now, as far as what will happen, we know for sure. The Bible tells us very clearly the events of the last days are going to culminate in the second coming of Jesus Christ. Many predicted events are still to take place. If you're interested in finding them out, go to our website, Educating Our World. There are two books there that you'll want to look at. One is Look Up a Timeline of 50 Last Days Events. Many events that are still going to take place have not happened yet. We list 50 of them. And then, of course, our book, 25 Signs, we're near the end, which talks about the signs that are taking place right now. And what's amazing about it, as we've been saying, of the 25 signs, 70 of the specific details within these signs have already been fulfilled. 70 of these last days predictions, another 30 are in the process of being fulfilled, showing that God's in control of everything. And so we'll keep an eye on all of that. And again, these books are free downloads from our website, Educating Our World. Please take advantage of them. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until later, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.